Hey, sleepy listener. Welcome to Sleeping Podcast. Where in the world are you listening from? Let us know in the comments. And if you're ready to drift off, like and subscribe. And let's begin.
Hello there, and welcome to this quiet corner of thought. A space where curiosity can stretch out without hurry, and where the big questions of Earth's story arrive gently, like waves rolling onto a still shore at night. Tonight, we are settling into a journey across time. Not the time of human memory, not the time of kingdoms or cities or stories written down, but a time so distant that the very ground beneath our feet looked nothing like it does now. It was an age when the continents were not separate, no familiar map of the world, no distinct Americas, Africa, Asia, or Europe. Instead, all the land was drawn together in a single vast shape, a supercontinent we call Pangea. Before we wander too far, take a moment to let your body rest where it is. Notice the chair, the bed, or the place you've chosen for listening. Let your breathing become steady. Let your eyes grow heavier with each slow blink. This is not a story of urgency. It is a story meant to move slowly, at the same pace as your breath. Now imagine Earth, about 300 million years ago. A world where almost all of the land is connected, stretching from pole to pole in one giant mass. Seas lap at the edges, and inland, vast deserts reach farther than the eye could follow. The winds carry dust across plains, and rivers carve their paths across landscapes that no human would ever see. The climate of Pangea was extreme. The middle regions were hot, dry, and difficult for life. Closer to the edges, forests and swamps flourished. Strange plants rose tall, and giant insects filled the skies with a low hum. Reptiles walked across the land, some small and quick, others heavy and slow. Early ancestors of the creatures that would one day rule the earth. And as you picture this ancient place, notice how quiet it feels compared to the present world. No engines, no voices, no lights glowing in the distance. Only the steady rhythm of the natural earth. Millions of years passed, and mountains rose where there had once been flat ground. Volcanoes spilled fire into the air, and oceans pressed their waves against Pangea's shores. From high above, the view would have been astonishing. One great sweep of land across the blue surface of the planet. A whole world simplified, drawn, pinned to one continuous shape. It's easy to forget, as we live our brief lives in the present, that Earth has always been moving, always changing. The continents beneath our feet drift at the speed that fingernails grow. Slow enough to be invisible to us, but powerful enough to redraw the world given enough time. And so tonight, as you listen, you are invited to drift with that same slowness, to move through the story of Pangea, the way continents themselves move, not in leaps, not in sudden shifts, but in a calm, steady flow. You may feel your body beginning to soften. Your breath may fall into a quieter rhythm. That is exactly how this journey should feel. Because the story of Pangea is not just about rocks and land. It is about time itself. Time stretching so far beyond us that it begins to lull the mind into rest. So, let us continue gently. We have only begun to imagine this ancient earth. In the next part, we will step closer and see what kinds of life stirred in the forests, the deserts, and the seas of Pangea. A world unfamiliar, and yet part of the same earth we walk today. Asterisk if you've ever held a globe in your hands, you know the way the continents stand apart. Africa, South America, Asia, Europe, Australia, separated by oceans, surrounded by blue expanses that define the edges of our maps. But if we roll time backwards, far beyond our memories, far beyond the first traces of human history, something remarkable happens. The outlines of those continents begin to shift. Coastlines drift, mountain ranges fold and unfold, and slowly, over millions upon millions of years, the puzzle pieces move closer together. Imagine all of those shapes we know. South America sliding eastward, Africa drifting toward it like a slow embrace, India carried upward by invisible forces beneath the earth, North America gliding toward the great mass forming at the center. Eventually, after eons of this silent movement, the scattered continents touch and fuse. What emerges is not many lands, but one, a single vast supercontinent, a world map with only one great piece of land, ringed by endless oceans. This was Pangea. Take a moment to picture it. Not the globe you've grown used to, but a planet that looks unfamiliar, almost alien in its design. Imagine you're floating above Earth, looking down at a landmass so immense that it stretches from the northern ice all the way toward the southern seas. From space, there are fewer coastlines, fewer borders, just one great sweep of brown and green covering half the planet. The center of this land was dry, a place where rainfall seldom reached. Great deserts stretched across the middle like vast seas of sand, larger than anything the modern Earth has known. Along the edges, where ocean met land, the story was different. There, rivers cut their way inward, bringing life to swamps and forests. The coasts of Pangea were alive with green abundance, while the center held its breath in silence. Think of how strange travel would feel on such a planet. To walk from one side to the other, you would never encounter an ocean to cross. You would only move across endless land, desert, then mountain, then forest, then more desert, but no seas breaking the journey. The horizon would always be Earth, and yet the ocean was never far. It wrapped itself around Pangea like a blue border, an immense ring called Panthalassa, a global ocean surrounding the whole of the supercontinent. Its waves lapped against every edge. Its winds carried salt and spray. Its tides marked the heartbeat of the planet. There is something calming about imagining a world so whole, so simple in its geography. No scattered pieces to memorize. No separate lands divided by distance. Just one continent, one ocean, one ancient arrangement that would, in time, be broken apart again. And as you hold that picture in your mind, you may notice your own thoughts beginning to slow. Because there is a rhythm to this kind of imagining, a rhythm that matches the earth itself. Land does not rush, oceans do not hurry. They move in cycles so vast that human lives are only brief notes in their longer song. So let the image of Pangea settle in, like a map drawn across the quiet of your mind. A world joined together, resting on the slow breath of time. And as this part of the journey comes to a close, we will gently step forward, from the map itself to the climate and moods of this ancient land. What was it like to feel the air of Pangea? To stand in its deserts, to walk through its forests, to rest beside its rivers? We will explore that in the next part, slowly, calmly, one breath, one thought at a time. Asterisk. When we imagine a world like Pangea, it's tempting to picture only the shape of the land, the outline on a map, the single vast continent sitting inside. Its endless ocean, but land without air is only stone. What made Pangea alive was the climate that wrapped itself around it. The skies that carried heat and rain, the winds that moved across plains and deserts, the quiet patterns of weather that defined life there. The climate of a supercontinent was unlike anything we know today. On our modern Earth, oceans separate the continents, and those oceans help balance the air, spreading warmth, carrying storms, keeping much of the planet within a gentle rhythm of seasons. But on Pangea, the ocean could not reach far into the center. Most of the land was distant from coasts, cut off from the cooling touch of waves and tides. The heart of Pangea was dry, an immense stretch of arid land where rain seldom arrived. Bit was here, in the central desert, that days grew scorching hot and nights dropped into silence and chill. Imagine standing there. The horizon stretches wide and unbroken. The air shimmers with heat by day, yet grows crisp by night. There are no familiar cities, no fields, no paths marked by wheels, only dunes, winds, and the occasional sound of creatures adapted to such extremes. And then shift your gaze outward, toward the coasts. Along the edges of Pangea, the world softened. Moist air drifted in from Panthalassa, the great ocean that encircled the land. Clouds gathered, storms moved inland, and rivers carved their courses toward the sea. Here, in these borderlands, forests flourished, swamps stretched wide, thick with ferns and towering trees. Life clustered where the water was. The climate was never still. Monsoons swept across parts of the land, bringing cycles of wet and dry. Volcanoes released their ash and smoke, shaping skies and altering air. The tilt of the planet shifted seasons, drawing long summers and shorter winters, patterns repeating endlessly over millions of years. Think of how slowly those seasons must have passed. For the creatures of that time, time itself was different. They lived in rhythms older than ours, paced not by clocks or calendars, but by the rising and falling of rains, by the greening and browning of forests, by the heat of sun on stone and by the cool of wind after storms. The climate of Pangea was also a force of change. Species adapted to deserts, finding ways to conserve water, to move at night, to hide in shade. Others adapted to forests, feeding on abundant plants, climbing through ferns and early conifers. The landscape shaped the creatures, and in turn, the creatures shaped the landscape, a quiet cycle repeating without hurry. And if you imagine this world at night, the climate adds another layer. In the desert heart of Pangea, the stars would blaze brightly in clear skies, the air cool and still. Along the coast, the sound of rain would soften the darkness, a steady rhythm of drops and streams. Everywhere, the climate wrote the background music to the story of life. As you hold this in your thoughts, let your own breathing match that rhythm. Inhale like the warm winds of day. Exhale like the cool breezes of night. Slow, steady, without urgency. Because Pangea's climate, though harsh at times, moved at the slow pace of deep earth. And so should this story. In our next step, we'll move closer to the green edges, where forests and swamps stretched wide, where ancient plants grew taller than houses, and where creatures found shelter beneath their shadows. A softer place in the supercontinent's design, a gentler rhythm waiting quietly at the margins. Asterisk, when we leave the dry heart of Pangea behind and walk slowly toward its edges, the world begins to soften. The air grows heavier, the ground damp beneath our steps. The endless desert sand gives way to the deep green hush of forests and swamps. Here, the climate bends to the ocean's touch. Moisture drifts inland on slow winds. Clouds gather and release themselves as rain, and the land responds with life. Perforests stretch wide, filled with plants unlike the ones we know today. Their shapes are familiar in some ways, yet older, stranger, as though they belonged to an earlier dream of earth. Towering above were giant ferns, their fronds unfolding like enormous fans. There were horsetails as tall as trees, their stems thick and jointed, their tops feathered with delicate greens. Primitive conifers rose higher still, reaching toward the sun, casting long shadows across the forest floor. Everywhere, the air was rich with moisture, thick and warm, filled with the scent of wet soil and growing leaves. The swamps were darker, their waters still and quiet, mirroring the sky above. Trees grew from their edges, roots twisting down into the mud. Insects hummed in the air, their wings brushing gently against the silence. Occasionally, ripples broke across the surface as small reptiles slid into the water or amphibians rose for breath. This was a world that pulsed with a slow abundance. Plants grew thickly, layer upon layer, leaves falling, branches decaying, becoming the soil from which new growth emerged. The cycle turned endlessly, a quiet exchange of life and death, always moving, always renewing. Imagine standing in such a place. The light filters through green canopies, soft and broken, never harsh. The ground beneath you is damp, springing slightly with each step. The air carries the steady sound of dripping water, the faint rustle of leaves shifting in a breeze. There is no need to hurry. The forest moves at its own pace, slow and constant, a living lullaby of the ancient world. Life found many forms here. Amphibians rested in the shallows, their smooth skin glistening in the dim light. Early reptiles wandered across fallen logs, their claws scratching softly against the bark. Dragonflies, enormous by today's standards, glided between shafts, born of sunlight, their wings catching the glow as they passed. In this damp, fertile world, life had the water and shelter it needed to grow. It was not a forest as we know it now. There were no flowering plants, no grasses underfoot. The colors were different, more shades of deep green, more textures of fern and moss. And yet the feeling was familiar, a place of refuge, a place where the earth itself seemed to breathe. Close your eyes for a moment, and you may hear it, the gentle dripping of rain, the distant croak of a creature in the swamp, the slow hum of insects circling the air. Every sound is soft, every rhythm steady, as though the land itself is guiding you into calm. Forests and swamps at the edges of Pangea were also places of memory. As plants grew tall and fell, their remains layered upon each other, pressed slowly into the ground. Over millions of years, those layers would transform into cold, dark seams hidden beneath stone. The quiet breath of the forest would one day become the stored energy of Earth, waiting to be uncovered long after. But in their time, these forests were simply alive, day after day, season after season. Millions of years unfolding in the steady language of growth. And as you imagine them now, let yourself feel that same patience. The patience of roots deep in soil, of leaves opening one by one, of rain falling drop by drop. No rush, no urgency, only the long, quiet rhythm of life in the swamps and forests of Pangea. Soon we will step from these damp green shadows into another corner of the ancient land, by from the shelter of trees and wetlands. We will meet the creatures who wandered the open ground, those who crawled, walked, and slowly defined the life of the supercontinent. But for now, rest in the stillness of these forests, their endless patience, asterisk beyond. The quiet forests and swamps of Pangea, life stirred across the open ground. Creatures of many forms walked, crawled, and slithered through the landscape, each adapted to the rhythms of their time. It was a world before mammals, before familiar animals filled the earth. Yet it was alive with beings who shaped the long story of evolution. The land belonged to amphibians and reptiles, two insects of extraordinary size, two creatures whose bones we would one day uncover as fossils. Their movements were slow, their lives tied to the land and water that sustained them. Picture an early amphibian resting at the edge of a shallow stream, its body low to the ground, skin smooth and damp, breathing the heavy air of the swamp. With a quiet motion, it slips into the water, barely disturbing the surface, moving in silence. These amphibians, descendants of fish who once left the seas, were among the first to bridge two worlds, living partly on land, partly in water, patiently carrying forward the story of life. Nearby reptiles ventured farther, their bodies more suited to the dry air, their skins scaled and protective. Some were small, darting quickly across fallen branches, pausing in the sunlight. Others were larger, their footsteps pressing into the damp earth, their shadows stretching long across the forest floor. They were the quiet precursors of a lineage that would one day include dinosaurs. But here in Pangea, they were simply part of the slow unfolding of life. Insects filled the air in numbers beyond counting. Dragonflies with wings as wide as a bird's drifted gracefully between shafts of light. Beetles clung to bark, their bodies gleaming faintly with moisture. Millipedes longer than a human arm crawled across the forest floor, their many legs moving in waves, like ripples across the ground. The hum and click of their movements were the background song of the land, soft, steady, never rushed. This was not a world of predators and prey, as we think of it now, with sudden hunts or dramatic chases. It was a world of steady existence, poor of creatures simply moving in rhythm with their surroundings. Each found its place, some in the water, some in the trees, some beneath the soil. Together, they created the quiet harmony of Pangea. Imagine walking slowly through this landscape. You would hear the rustle of scales against dry leaves, the gentle splash of amphibians sliding into pools, the buzz of wings overhead. Every sound would be part of the same soft music of the earth, a lullaby written in movement and breath. And though their forms may seem strange to us now, there is something familiar in them too. A lizard basking in the sun, a frog resting by, a pond, an insect gliding on the air. Echoes of Pangea's creatures are still with us today, survivors of deep time. The creatures of this ancient land remind us of how life endures, pour across deserts and forests. Through heat and rain, life found ways to shape itself, to rest in its own rhythm, to continue quietly for millions of years. As you imagine them now, let their stillness become your own. The slow crawl of an insect, the measured breath of an amphibian, the steady sun-warmed pause of a reptile. Each movement invites you to slow down too, to feel your own body soften, to let your thoughts drift gently, like wings moving through warm air. That the land of Pangea was not empty. It was filled with lives, each small and patient, woven into the greater calm of the planet. And as this part of the story quiets, we turn gently toward another wonder, the insects of Pangea in all by their size and form. From dragonflies with wings wide as a child's arms, to creatures that crept silently through forests, we will meet them next. In the hush of the ancient skies, asterisk if you listen closely to the air above Pangea, you might hear the soft hum of wings. It is not the hum we know today, not the faint buzz of a small fly or the quick flutter of a moth. In this ancient time, the skies carried creatures far larger than we are used to. Dragonflies glided gracefully, their wings stretched wide, not a few centimeters, but half a meter across, wider than the span of a child's arms, broad enough to cast a small shadow on the ground below. They moved with slow, steady power, their wings shimmering in the light, catching the sun as they hovered over swamps and streams. Imagine sitting quietly at the edge of a wetland, the air thick with moisture, when one of these dragonflies drifts past. Its movement is not hurried. It seems to float more than fly, circling slowly before coming to rest on the branch of a towering fern. Its body gleams faintly, its eyes vast and multifaceted, reflecting the ancient green of the forest. And it was not only dragonflies. Millipedes longer than a human's height crawled steadily across the ground. Each segment of their body moved with careful rhythm, hundreds of legs lifting and placing, like a living wave rolling forward. Their passage was slow, yet constant, a reminder that life did not need speed to endure. Beetles with hard shells moved through the undergrowth, their carapaces shining with moisture. Some clung to the thick stems of horsetail plants, while others dug patiently into the soil below. Crickets and locust-like insects sang their quiet songs into the warm air, a chorus of simple tones filling the silence of the night. Insects grew so large during this time because the atmosphere itself was different. The air carried more oxygen than it does today, allowing wings to stretch wider, bodies to grow heavier, and movement to be sustained without strain. It was a gift of the planet's chemistry, a temporary condition that gave rise to giants in miniature form. Close your eyes and imagine the soundscape of this insect world, the slow rustle of many legs on leaves, the low, steady hum of broad wings, the occasional clicking of mandibles, soft and rhythmic. It is not noise, but a kind of gentle background, an ambient music of the air. These insects were not threats, not monsters, but simply part of the earth's calm abundance. They fed on plants, on smaller creatures, on what the land offered. In turn, they provided food for amphibians and reptiles, each life supporting another in a quiet cycle that never rushed. Think of a warm evening on Pangea, the sun dipping low, the air cooling slowly. Insects move lazily through the dusk, settling on branches, folding their wings, tucking into the shadows of trees. The night begins to thicken around them, and the forest falls into a deeper stillness. As you picture this, let your own body rest. Imagine your breath moving like wings, slow, steady, rising and falling with ease. Imagine your thoughts like insects in flight, circling gently, finding their place, settling into quiet. The insects of Pangea remind us that life comes in many forms, and that even the smallest beings can fill the world with presence. Their size was unusual, but their lives were simple: to move, to feed, to exist within the rhythm of Earth. And so, As this part of the story closes, we leave them in their stillness. Dragonflies resting on ferns, millipedes weaving slow, paths across the soil, beetles hidden in damp shadows, each one part of the calm pulse of the land. From here, we will step gently into the age of reptiles, creatures who began to rise quietly on Pangea, marking a new chapter in Earth's unfolding. Story asterisk as the forests thickened and the insects filled the air, another kind of life began to take shape on Pangea. It was quieter than the roar of dinosaurs that would one day come, quieter than the vast herds of mammals that would roam the future Earth. These were the early reptiles, the first of their kind to step fully into the sunlight of the land. Unlike amphibians, whose bodies still longed for water, reptiles had found freedom from the swamp. Their skin was not soft and damp, but covered in scales, and that rau armor, a shield against dryness. With lungs more suited to the air, they could wander farther from rivers and lakes, claiming the open ground as their own. Picture one of these early creatures. It is not yet the towering dinosaur, nor the sleek lizard of today. It is smaller, low to the ground, its body strong but simple. It moves slowly through the underbrush, pausing to lift its head, its eyes alert but unhurried. The sun warms its back, and it rests in that warmth, content with the stillness of the day. Some reptiles grew larger, their limbs stronger, their bodies more suited to the wide plains. Others remained small, darting into shadows, hiding among fallen branches. There was no rush in their lives, only the steady rhythm of survival. They fed on insects, on plants, on the small abundance the land provided. These early reptiles were the ancestors of giants. From them would come the dinosaurs, the crocodiles, the turtles, the snakes. But here, in Pangea's dawn, they were simply new arrivals, exploring the land that stretched endlessly before them. Imagine watching one of them move across the desert edge. Its tail drags softly through the sand, leaving a winding trail behind. Its feet press gently into the earth, each step deliberate, each motion unhurried. The creature does not know that millions of years later, its descendants will rule the earth. It only knows the warmth of the sun, the scent of the air, the steady rhythm of its own breath. The dawn of reptiles was also the dawn of change, with scales to protect them and eggs that could survive on land. They no longer depended on water for every stage of life. This freedom allowed them to wander, to spread into new habitats, to claim deserts, forests, and even high ground where amphibians could not thrive. The earth was opening new possibilities, and reptiles were patient enough to take them, step by slow step, generation after generation. They settled into the land. Think of them basking quietly on rocks, soaking in the sun, their bodies still and calm. Think of them moving carefully through forests, the sound of leaves shifting beneath their weight. These were not creatures of speed. They lived in the rhythm of the planet itself, measured, steady. bare movements blending with the silence of Pangea. And when the night came, they rested as the stars filled the sky, their bodies cooling with the air. Perhaps they gathered in small groups or nestled into the warmth of the earth. The world, tell you how to, was still simple then, a balance of land, air, and life, each shaping the other in quiet partnership. As you imagine these early reptiles, let their patience guide you. Their lives remind us that there is strength in stillness, that survival is not always about haste, but about finding a rhythm and moving gently within it. The dawn of reptiles was not loud. It was not dramatic. It was a whisper in the story of Earth, a small beginning that would, in time, become something vast. And that is the beauty of it. Life does not rush. It unfolds, slowly, steadily, as one age gives way to the next. And so, we leave these quiet reptiles in their world, warming in the sun, resting in the shade, breathing with the steady calm. Put of the land itself, from here our gaze will lift upward to the skies above Pangea, where the stars shone over deserts and forests alike. The heavens looked different then, yet timeless too, a quiet canopy above a world still finding its form. Asterisk, while the land of Pangea stretched wide and unbroken. The oceans were just as immense. Surrounding the supercontinent was one vast body, put of water, so large it seemed endless. It was called Pangea, the universal sea. Imagine standing at the coast of Pangea. Before you lies not a familiar ocean broken by islands and distant shores, but a horizon that never ends. Wave after wave, blue stretching outward, circle upon circle of water surrounding all the land on earth. The rhythm of Pangea was the heartbeat of the planet. Its tides rose and fell, drawn by the pull of the moon. Its surface shifted with wind. Its depths held silence that no creature of that time could ever fully know. Along the shores, the ocean greeted the land with patience. Foam gathered at the edges of rocks. Sand shifted beneath the waves. Each tide carried salt. Each wave left its mark, and slowly, the border between land and sea was redrawn again and again. The waters near the coast were alive. Coral reefs grew in the shallows, their delicate shapes building homes for small creatures. Fish of many forms swam between the branches of coral, flashes of silver and shadow beneath the waves. Invertebrates clung to rocks, opening and closing, with the tides feeding on what the sea delivered. Farther out, the ocean grew deeper and darker. Currents moved like invisible rivers within the greater sea, carrying warmth and nutrients, weaving the planet together. Some creatures followed these currents, drifting across great distances. Others lived in stillness, anchored to the seabed, patient in their quiet. Imagine floating on the surface, looking in every direction. The horizon curves away, an unbroken ring of blue. There are no ships, no markers, no sign of other lands. Only sky above and water below. The air is filled with the gentle hush of waves, a sound as old as the earth itself. The ocean was not only vast in size, but vast in time. Its surface shifted with each storm, but its depths carried memories older than the land. Every grain of salt, every drifting current was part of a cycle millions of years long. At night, the ocean became a mirror. Stars reflected on its surface, moonlight scattered across gentle waves. For any creature at the shore, the sea must have looked infinite, a dark expanse that carried both calm and mystery. And though it seemed eternal, the ocean too was always changing. Continents moved slowly, currents shifted with them, new coasts were born, old reefs sank beneath the waves. Pangea looked endless, yet even it would one day be broken apart as the earth reshaped itself again. Think for a moment of how the ocean breathes, the steady pull of tide, in the gentle release of tide out, the quiet lap of water against stone. It is the same rhythm as our own breath, in and out, slow and constant. Perhaps that is why its sound is so deeply calming, because it carries the same pattern we hold within us. The oceans around Pangea were more than water. They were the great balance of the planet, holding heat, shaping weather, nourishing life. Every drop was part of a system that touched both land and sky, binding them together. As you imagine these oceans, let yourself feel their stillness, the vastness of blue, the steady sound of waves, the gentle, endless horizon. A space with no hurry, no boundary, only the quiet movement of time. From here we will drift deeper into the ancient waters themselves, down below the surface of Pangea, where strange creatures swam, and the quiet life of the sea unfolded in shadows and light. Asterisk beneath the wide surface of Pangea, the ocean was alive, though the land of Pangea stretched endlessly above. The seas carried their own vast kingdoms, realms of drifting currents, shifting light, and creatures shaped entirely by water dot near the coasts. Binned in the warmth of the shallows, reefs built themselves slowly, stone upon stone, skeleton upon skeleton, as corals grew in colonies. Their delicate branches provided shelter for countless beings. Small fish darted between the shadows, quick flashes by of silver and gold. Crabs crept quietly along the sand, their claws moving like careful tools. Soft-bodied creatures swayed with the water, opening and closing, catching tiny food drifting in the tide. And there, hovering just above the reefs, were ancient sharks. Not yet the forms we know today, but early shapes, sleek bodies, rows, paw of teeth designed for survival, eyes dark and steady. They glided silently, their movements smooth as shadows. They did not need speed or fury. They only needed patience, drifting until the sea brought them what they required. Farther out, the waters grew cooler, the light dimmer. Here lived ammonites, spiraled shells floating through the currents, their tentacles stretched outward, guiding. Ben as they rose and sank, their shells carried patterns, delicate ridges curling in perfect design, as if the ocean itself had drawn them with care. Jellyfish drifted to their bodies translucent, catching light as they pulsed slowly through the water. Some were small, no larger than a coin. Others spread wide, trailing long, delicate threads that glowed faintly in the dim light. They were the quiet lanterns of the sea, moving with the rhythm of the tides. Deeper still, where sunlight could not reach, life continued in silence. Strange fish with wide eyes floated in the shadows. Creatures without bones moved slowly across the seabed, searching for food in the dark. There was no rush here, no sound but the faint hum of the earth itself. The deep sea was a place of patience, of beings shaped entirely by stillness. Imagine yourself drifting in these waters. You move without weight, the ocean holding you gently. All around, life continues, fish circling slowly, shells turning. In the current, jellyfish pulsing like heartbeats in the dark. Every movement is slow, steady, hypnotic. The creatures of the ancient seas were not separate from the planet. They were part of its great cycle. They fed on what the ocean gave, and in turn, they nourished others. Life rose, life fell, always in balance, always in rhythm with the water. Think of a reef at night. The surface above is dark, the stars hidden by waves. Yet below, the reef glows faintly with life. Tiny creatures stir, fish move gently in their sleep, the ocean breathing in and out around them. It is a lullaby written in water, sung by countless beings together. These creatures may seem distant to us now, separated by millions of years, but echoes of them remain. Sharks still glide silently through oceans. Corals still build slow, patient wreaths. Jellyfish still drift with the currents, unchanged in their simple elegance. The seas hold memory longer than the land. As you hold these images in your mind, let them guide you to stillness. Picture the slow spiral of an ammonite. Picture the drifting glow of a jellyfish. Picture the steady glide of a shark through dark, endless water. Each one moves in rhythm with the sea, and you can let your own thoughts move in that rhythm too. The ancient oceans of Pangea were not silent, but they were calm. Every creature had its place. Every motion was steady. Every life was a thread in the fabric of time. And as this chapter of the sea closes, we will rise gently back toward the land. Ahead lies the shifting surface of Pangea itself, the slow, patient movement of continents, the great drift of stone across the planet, a reminder that even the ground beneath us is never truly still. Asterisk, the land of Pangea looked solid, eternal, unbroken. A single continent stretching from one horizon to the next. Mountains, forests, deserts, and coasts, all connected in one vast expanse. But the truth of the earth is that nothing ever stays still. Even stone, even continents, are always moving beneath our feet. The surface of the planet rests on plates, enormous slabs of rock that float on softer layers below. They shift slowly, far too slowly to see in a single lifetime, yet their movement reshapes the world. This quiet drifting of land is called plate tectonics, and it is the hidden rhythm guiding the history of the Earth. Pangea was not the first supercontinent before it. Others had come and gone. Rodinia, Gondwana, Laurasia, each gathered together, each split apart again, like the slow breath of the planet. And after Pangea, others will form too, though none of us will be here to see them. Imagine the continent from above, a view far higher than any bird could fly. You see the outline of Pangea like a puzzle piece, surrounded by the endless blue of Panthalassa. But if you watch not for moments, not for years, but for millions of years, you see the land begin to change. Cracks appear deep within the stone. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the pieces begin to drift apart. At first, it is only a thin line of sea pushing its way between two lands. Then, with time, that line widens, becoming an ocean of its own. What was once one continent becomes two. And still, they keep drifting, carried by the silent currents below. This motion is slow, so slow that in the span of human history, it is invisible. But given millions of years, mountains rise and crumble, oceans open and close, lands move across. Put the globe like rafts on a great hidden river. Think of Africa today, its outline fitting neatly against the curve of South America. It is no accident. They were once joined, edges pressed together, part of Pangea's whole. Now they are divided by the Atlantic Ocean, but the memory of their fit remains written in stone. The drift of continents is not loud or sudden. It is patient, a reminder that change does not need haste. The earth transforms itself in silence, in movements smaller than we can feel, until one day, the world is entirely different. Close your eyes and imagine that movement beneath you. The ground, which feels so solid, is part of a surface that floats. It carries mountains and valleys, forests and rivers, cities and people, and yet it drifts without pause, at the speed a fingernail grows, reshaping the face of the planet. In Pangea's time, that drift had only begun. The land was still mostly whole, but the seeds of division were already there, rifts forming oceans, preparing to emerge. The supercontinent was a moment in Earth's long cycle, not the beginning, not the end, but a pause in between. Think of it as the Earth breathing. In, the continents gather together. Out, they drift apart again. Each breath lasts hundreds of millions of years, a rhythm far slower than ours, yet steady, unbroken. And as you rest here in thought, let that rhythm calm you. The patience of stone, the slowness of land, the quiet movement that continues whether or not we notice. It is the deep time of the planet, and it has always been. The drift of continents is still happening now, beneath us. We may not see the change, but it is there, moving the land we call home, reshaping the future in silence. From here, we will step gently into another story, not of stone, but of time itself. For to understand Pangea, we must imagine the vast timeline. It belongs to ages before, ages after, all part of Earth's unfolding journey. Asterisk. When we think of time, we often measure it in days and years. The rising of the sun, the turning of the seasons, the passing of a lifetime. But the earth holds another kind of time, a scale so vast, so patient, that human years are only a whisper within it. This is deep time, the history of the planet, written not in centuries, but in millions and billions of years. It is a time that does not hurry. It is the slow unfolding of oceans and mountains, the rise and fall of continents, the birth and extinction of countless species. Imagine a clock not set to 24 hours, but to 4.5 billion years. On such a clock, the age of the dinosaurs would appear in only the last hour. Human history, every civilization and culture we know, would fill only the final second. Everything we have ever recorded is but a flicker against the span of Earth's memory. Think back to Pangea. It existed around 300 million years ago. To us, that feels unimaginable, but to the Earth, it was just another chapter, another turn of the page. Before Pangea, other continents had gathered and split. After Pangea, others will do the same. The planet moves steadily through time, carrying no rush, holding no urgency. Picture a mountain range, sharp peaks rising high, snow glittering at their tops. To us, they seem immovable, eternal. But given millions of years, wind and rain will wear them down. Stone will crumble, rivers will carry it away, and what was once towering will become a plain. The earth remembers differently than we do, rivers to tell the same story. In a single day, a river looks unchanged, but over ages it carves valleys deep into stone, shaping landscapes that no eye ever saw form in full. Its patient movement is time made visible. Deep time stretches beyond even life itself. For billions of years, the earth was only water and rock, shaped by fire and ice, before the first simple cells appeared. And long after us, time will continue. Whether life endures or not, the earth will still turn, continents will still move, oceans will still rise and fall. Close your eyes and try to feel that scale. It is larger than imagination, yet it is the quiet truth of the world beneath us. Your breath, your heartbeat, are moments within it. And yet they are also part of it. Even the smallest life belongs to deep time. What is most calming about this vastness is the way it places everything into perspective. The worries of a single day, the noise of a single moment, become lighter when seen against the silence of millions of years. Time stretches wide and endless, and we are carried gently. Within it, think of a desert, sand stretching in all directions. Each grain is small, yet together they form something vast. So too is time. Each moment is a grain, but deep time is the whole desert, quiet, expansive, without boundary. As you rest with this thought, let yourself move at the pace of deep time. There is no need to hurry. There is no need to chase. Life will unfold. The earth will continue. and all things will return to stillness. Pangea was a moment in deep time. It rose, it stretched wide, it drifted apart. The creatures of its forests and seas lived their lives within it, as we live ours within the present. And just as they became part of memory, so too will we. Time, beyond human measure, is not something to fear. It is something to rest within, a reminder that all is connected, that all things move gently within the long rhythm of the universe. And now we turn softly to another horizon, the future of the Earth itself. For if the planet has carried us through so much, what might still lie ahead? The Earth, as we know it now, is only one version of the planet's long story. Continents move, oceans shift, climates change. What we see today is not the final form of the world, but only a pause, a moment between what was and what will be. Just as Pangea rose and broke apart, so too will the continents of today continue their silent drift. Africa inches slowly toward Europe. Australia moves northward. The Atlantic Ocean, which seems endless now, widens each year by the length of a fingernail. It is changed, too slow to see, yet powerful enough to redraw the face of the Earth. Imagine millions of years from now. The lands will look unfamiliar. New supercontinents may form. Mountains will rise where oceans once spread. Seas will flood places that are now dry. And still, life will adapt as it has always done. The future Earth will also feel the long breath of the sun, for stars change, too, just as planets do. Our sun will grow brighter over billions of years, warming the Earth slowly, changing the balance of oceans and skies. What feels steady and eternal to us is, in truth, another part of a great unfolding. Picture coastlines reshaping, cities long gone, their stones returned to sand, forests rising again in places where humans once stood, perhaps new life forms, emerging different from us, shaped by the climates of tomorrow. Time does not end, it only transforms. The Earth is patient with its future. It does not rush. It does not fear what is ahead. It carries itself steadily forward, as it always has. And when we think of that future, it reminds us that change is not sudden, but gentle, an unfolding across ages. For us, the future may feel uncertain, but for the Earth, the path is simple. Continents drift, oceans rise and fall, mountains build and wear down. Life appears, flourishes, and becomes memory. This is the cycle, and it continues without end. Close your eyes and imagine yourself standing on the shore of that distant future. The horizon looks the same. The waves still rise and fall. The stars still shine above. Though the land may look different, the rhythm is unchanged. The Earth still breathes, slowly, steadily, in and out. And as you breathe with it now, you are part of that same rhythm, part of the same long story. Your moment belongs to the present, but it is also a thread woven into the future. The thought of tomorrow does not need to bring restlessness. It can bring calm. because whatever comes, the Earth will hold it, as it always has. The future Earth is not an ending. It is simply another chapter, waiting to be written by the slow hand of time. And now, as we prepare to leave that horizon, we will begin to quiet ourselves further, moving toward the closing chapters where time itself softens and even thought begins to rest. Asterisk, when we think of Pangea, we often picture a great landmass, a puzzle piece continent stretching across the globe. But beyond its scale, beyond its deserts and forests, Pangea carries lessons for those willing to listen. The first lesson is that nothing remains the same. Even the land itself, which feels solid and eternal beneath our feet, is part of a story. Change. Continents join together, then drift apart. Mountains rise, then wear down to plains. Oceans form and vanish. The Earth is always moving, always transforming, yet always whole. From Pangea we learn patience. Its life was measured not in centuries, but in millions of years. The shifts that shaped it were so slow that no single creature could see them, and yet the changes happened all the same. It reminds us that time does not need to rush to create something vast. The second lesson is that balance exists in many forms. Pangea carried deserts in its heart, yet lush forests grew along its edges. Great rivers wound across its plains, while oceans circled it on every side. Life found its way in every corner, from reptiles basking in the sun to fish drifting in Panthalasa's currents. Each part of the continent was different, yet together they formed a single whole dot in our own lives. Balance works the same way. There are moments of stillness, moments of activity, moments of growth, moments of rest. All are needed. All belong to the same rhythm. The third lesson of Pangea is that memory is not always permanent. So much of it is gone now. Forests have vanished. Creatures have left only fossils. The land has been pulled apart into the continents we know today. And yet, through study and imagination, we can glimpse its story. The Earth does not cling to the past. It lets each age dissolve, making way for the next dot. This can be a gentle comfort. The things we hold too tightly, our worries, our struggles, the noise of the present day, they too will pass. They will fade into memory, and new moments will take their place, just as the deserts of Pangea gave way to forests and seas. Our own lives shift and transform. Think of it this way. To the Earth, every moment is part of a larger whole. The shape of continents, the rise of mountains, the lives of creatures, the thoughts we carry tonight, all are threads in a greater tapestry. None exist alone. Each supports the others, woven together through time. The final lesson of Pangea is that stillness and change are not opposites, but companions. The land felt still to the creatures that walked upon it, yet beneath it was drifting, reshaping, becoming something new. So it is with us. Even when life feels still, we are always moving forward. Growth happens quietly, in ways we cannot always see. As we reflect on Pangea, Let its lessons settle gently within you. Patience, balance, acceptance, and quiet change. These are not only the truths of countenance, they are truths we can carry in our own small lives. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine standing on that vast continent. The air is warm. The horizon stretches wide. You feel the ground beneath you, solid and steady. And yet you know it is moving, slowly, quietly, toward a different shape. There is peace in that knowing. The lessons of Pangea are not heavy or demanding. They are gentle reminders that life, like the earth, is always unfolding, always flowing forward. We are part of that same rhythm, and we can rest within it. From here, we will move slowly toward stillness. The story has carried us across oceans, through forests, and into deep time itself. Now, it will begin to soften, quieting step by step, until even words give way to silence. Every age of the earth has its beginning, its middle, and its quiet end. No moment lasts forever. No age remains unchanged, and yet none are truly lost. For each becomes part of the memory carried within the planet. Pangea itself was one such age. It gathered slowly, stone drifting toward stone, continents joining into one. It lived for millions of years, a land vast enough to hold deserts, rivers, forests, and swamps. And then, just as gently, it began to fade. The fading of an age is never sudden. It is not a sharp ending, but a quiet transformation. The land began to crack, to shift, to drift apart. Forests changed with the climate. Species rose and fell. The earth moved forward as it always does, without rush, without pause. Think of the fading of day into night. There is no single moment when sunlight becomes darkness. Instead, shadows lengthen, the sky softens, colors dim, until, at last, stars appear. The shift is gentle, natural, unhurried. So too is the fading of ages. We often imagine endings with drama, but the earth prefers quiet. It lets each age dissolve like mist in the morning air. The traces remain, a fossil here, a layer of stone there. But the living world steps into a new rhythm. The slow fading of Pangea is a reminder that change does not need to be harsh. It can come softly, so gradually that those living through it may not even notice. For the reptiles, the forests, the seas of that time, life simply continued. Yet, with each passing generation, the shape of their world shifted. There is comfort in this. For just as the earth allows ages to pass gently, so too can we allow moments to pass. A worry, a thought, a restless memory, none need to end abruptly. They can fade instead, like sunlight fading into twilight. Imagine the sound of waves at night. Each one rises, each one falls, and together they form a pattern that never ends, yet never repeats exactly. That is how the earth moves through time. That is how ages come and go. Close your eyes and picture the last days of Pangea. To the creatures alive then, nothing seemed unusual. Forests still grew, rivers still ran, the ocean still touched the shore, and yet beneath their feet the land was drifting. They did not see an ending. They simply lived, while the age quietly shifted around them. So it is with us. We rarely notice the great changes while we are inside them, but slowly, gently, life reshapes itself. Each day becomes memory. Each age becomes history. The fading of ages teaches us acceptance. It reminds us that nothing must be clung to too tightly. Everything moves forward. Everything transforms. And within that movement, there is peace. As this thought settles, let it ease your own breathing. In and out, slow and steady, like the turning of ages. Each breath carries you further into calm. Each breath lets the noise of the day fade away. The earth has seen many ages. Each has ended. Each has given rise to another. And still, the planet remains. Still, the rhythm continues. So too will you find rest in the slow fading of this night, in the quiet rhythm of sleep. From here, we will drift gently toward the final chapters, where time softens further, where the story itself grows hushed, and where silence begins to take its place, as the story of Pangea fades, and the great movements of the earth soften into memory. We step into a quieter realm, a place where time itself seems to almost stop. This is the near silence of time, the pause between ages, the stillness that exists before the next great unfolding begins. The earth, in its vast history, has carried countless transitions. Continents join, then drift. Oceans spread, then close. Species rise, then fall into memory. And yet, between each of these moments is a silence. Not an absence, but a calm. Breathe in space where the planet simply rests. Imagine standing at the edge of an ancient sea. The waves are soft. The horizon is wide. Nothing demands your attention. Nothing hurries you forward. This is what the near silence of time feels like, a vast, gentle quiet that holds the world in balance. It is easy to believe that time is always rushing, always pulling us along. But here, in this stillness, we see that time can also wait. It can stretch wide and silent, like a desert perm under starlight, or a frozen plain in the depths of winter. No urgency, no noise, only calm. The earth has known many such silences. After great extinctions, when life thinned, the planet waited. Slowly, new forms appeared. New forests grew. New seas filled with life. The silence was not empty. It was patient. It was the pause that allowed renewal. Think of your own moments of stillness. The pause between breaths. The quiet before sleep. The calm after a long day. These too are silences of time. Gentle pauses that let the world settle. In the near silence of time, everything feels slower. The ticking of clocks fades. The weight of worries dissolves. All that remains is the steady rhythm of existence, soft and unbroken. Picture the earth in such a moment. The continents are in motion, yet the movement is so slow that it feels invisible. The oceans breathe in and out with the pull of tides. The stars move overhead, their arcs stretching across centuries. It is a silence so vast that it becomes a kind of music, not sound, but presence. Let yourself rest within it now. Each thought can soften, each worry can fade. You are not separate from this silence. You are part of it. Your breath belongs to it. Your heartbeat belongs to it. You are carried within the same still rhythm that holds the earth. The near silence of time is not an ending. It is a doorway, a gentle transition into deeper rest, into the kind of quiet that welcomes sleep. As you listen, let your mind drift like a continent across an unseen ocean. There is no need to arrive anywhere. There is no need to rush. You are already held within the great stillness. And as this chapter softens, we move closer to the final descent, where words grow fewer, where images fade, and where silence becomes complete. Asterisk, the story has carried us across oceans of time, through the rise of continents, and into the stillness of silence. Now we begin the final descent, a slow and gentle drifting from thought into rest. The earth itself teaches us how to soften. Mountains wear down, grain by grain. Rivers carve valleys, drop by drop. Forests grow, leaf by leaf. Every change is slow, every change is gentle. And so too can we descend into sleep, not all at once, but gradually, like the fading of twilight. Imagine the sky at the edge of night. The last light dims. The first stars appear. The world does not rush from day to darkness. It drifts there, softly, peacefully, inevitably. So it is with rest. Let your breath follow that rhythm, in and out, slow and steady, each breath a tide, rising and falling. Each breath carrying you a little deeper into calm. The mind may still hold onto thoughts, shapes of the day, echoes of memory, but like clouds in a wide sky, they pass. There is no need to chase them. There is no need to hold them. They drift on, and the sky remains. The earth in its long history has never hurried. It has never forced change. It simply moves at its own quiet pace, and in that way, it invites us to do the same, to rest without effort, to let sleep arrive in its own gentle time. Picture yourself lying on the surface of Pangea. The night is vast. The stars stretch endlessly above. The land is wide and still. There is no urgency, no sound but the wind and the sea. You feel the weight of the earth beneath you, steady, supportive, eternal. And with that weight, you begin to soften. Every muscle relaxes. Every thought grows quieter. You are part of the same slow rhythm that moves the continents and turns the stars. The descent toward sleep is not a fall. It is a drift, a gentle sliding into deeper calm, like a feather settling, like a leaf floating down to water. like night wrapping round the world. Close your eyes if they are not already closed. Let the darkness feel welcome. Let the silence deepen. Let the earth hold you, just as it holds all things. There is nothing more you must do. There is nowhere else you must go. This moment is enough. This stillness is enough. This breath is enough. The descent toward sleep is the earth's gift, a reminder that rest is as natural as day and night, as certain as tides, as endless as time itself. And now we move closer still, toward the final chapters, where words dissolve, where silence grows, and where sleep finally arrives. Asterisk, there comes a point in every night when thought begins to loosen, when the edges of the day soften and blur. It is the threshold where waking mind meets the quiet world of dreams. Here, words no longer hold tightly. Images take their place. The steady shape of reason dissolves into something lighter, something freer, something timeless. The earth itself knows this shifting. The forests slip into shadow at dusk. The seas darken into stillness. Creatures close their eyes. Their movements slow. Their breathing deepens. The whole planet moves gently toward rest. When thought becomes dream, we join that rhythm. We step out of the constant noise of day and into the wide silence of night. Our minds open to landscapes unbound by rules. A desert becomes a sea. A mountain becomes a cloud. Time bends. Memory reshapes. Imagination breathes. This is not escape. It is renewal. It is the earth's way of weaving rest into the pattern of life. Imagine yourself at the edge of sleep now. Thoughts flicker like fireflies. One rises, then drifts away. Another forms, then fades into shadow. There is no need to follow them. They are only stepping stones, leading you deeper into calm. Dreams are the ocean of the night, each one a wave, lifting, falling, shaping itself without effort. You need not control them. You need not even remember them. They will carry you where you to go. As thought softens into dream, the body grows heavier, the breath grows slower, the world outside fades. Bend still, you are safe, held gently by the earth. Pangea once carried countless nights like this. Forests darkened, seas stilled, creatures rested. Dreams came to them too, in ways we cannot know, but always within the same rhythm of night. We are not separate from that long history. We are part of it still. Let the thought of this calm you. Let it remind you that dreaming is as natural as the drifting of continents, as the rise of stars, as the fading of ages. It comes gently, buys. It arrives without force. Soon the words you hear now will blur, their edges dissolving, becoming part of the dream itself. You will not need to notice the moment. It will arrive on its own, softly, quietly, like a tide returning to shore. When thought becomes dream, rest is complete. You are carried forward without effort, without weight. The world outside continues, but within, you are free to wander into silence, into stillness, into sleep, and now we step even closer to the final rest, where even dreams grow quiet and only peace remains. Asterisk, at the end of every journey, there comes a stillness, a place where words are no longer needed, where thought dissolves completely, and where only rest remains. The earth knows this silence. Every night, forests grow hushed, seas calm, creatures close their eyes. Even the winds grow softer, as though the planet itself is breathing slower. You are part of that same rhythm now. The noise of the day has faded. The images of Pangea, of oceans and mountains, of ages rising and falling, they have all drifted into the background. What remains is only peace. Final rest does not arrive suddenly. It is a gentle settling, like a feather floating to the ground, like twilight deepening into night, like the last note of a song fading into silence. Your body grows heavier, your breath is steady, your mind has loosened its grip. You are floating now, between wakefulness and dream, between thought and silence. There is nothing left to hold on to, nothing left to do. The earth will turn, the stars will shine, the tides will rise and fall, and you, for now, can simply rest. Imagine the world in complete stillness, a desert under starlight, a forest at midnight, a sea without waves. This is the quiet that surrounds you. This is the quiet that holds you. Asterisk, you are safe. You are steady. You are part of the same long rhythm that carries the planet through its ages. Final rest is not an ending. It is a return to calm, a return to silence.
you.